Molly. So we are going to start reading scary stories to tell in the dark for the next couple weeks until the end of October. Today I'm going to read the first chapter, which is the first few short stories from the book. So we are going to start with the first chapter titled Ah! And it says this chapter is filled with jump stories, which you can use to make your friends jump with fright. So let's see what kind of jump scares we have in these stories. Okay, so the first one is titled The Big Toe. And here's an illustration. It looks like a boy who is pulling something out of the ground. I'm not sure, but we'll find out. A boy was digging at the edge of the garden when he saw a big toe. He tried to pick it up, but it was stuck to something. So he gave it a good, hard jerk and it came off in his hand. Then he heard something groan and scamper away. The boy took the toe into the kitchen and showed it to his mother. "It looks nice and plump," she said. "I'll put it in the soup and we'll have it for supper." That night, his father carved the toe into 3 pieces and they each had a piece. Then they did the dishes, and when it got dark, they went to bed. The boy fell asleep almost at once, but in the middle of the night, a sound awakened him. It was something out in the street. It was a voice, and it was calling to him. "Where is my toe?" it groaned. When the boy heard that, he got very scared. But he thought, "It doesn't know where I am. It never will find me." Then he heard the voice once more, only now it was closer. "Where is my toe?" it groaned. The boy pulled the blankets over his head and closed his eyes. "I'll go to sleep," he thought. "When I wake up, it will be gone." But soon he heard the back door open, and again he heard the voice. "Where is my toe?" it groaned. When the boy heard footsteps move through the kitchen into the dining room, into the living room, into the front hall. Then slowly they climbed the stairs. Closer and closer they came. Soon they were in the upstairs hall. Now they were outside the door. "Where is my toe?" the voice groaned. His door opened. Shaking with fear, he listened as the footsteps slowly moved through the dark toward his bed. Then they stopped. "Where is my toe?" the voice groaned. At this point, pause. "Oh, that's for me, that's not for you." So he said, "Where is my toe?" the voice groaned. "You've got it!" The big toe also has another ending. When the boy hears the voice calling for its toe, he finds a strange-looking creature up inside the chimney. The boy is so frightened he can't move. He just stands there and stares at it. Finally, he asks, What you got such big eyes for?" And the creature answers, "To look you through and through." What you got such big claws for?" "To scratch up your grave." What you got such a big mouth for?" "To swallow you whole." What you got such sharp teeth for?" "To chomp your bones." Yeah, that was pretty scary. I kind of ruined the jump scare, that first one, but I'll remember this time. Okay, so this second one is called The Walk, and there's a little illustration there. A couple of men by the full moon. The Walk. My uncle was walking down a lonely dirt road one day. He came upon a man who was also walking down the road. The man looked at my uncle, and my uncle looked at the man. The man was scared of my uncle, and my uncle was scared of that man. But they kept on walking, and it began to get dark. The man looked at my uncle, and my uncle looked at the man. The man was very scared of my uncle, and my uncle was very scared of the man. But they kept on walking, and they came to a big woods. It was getting darker, and the man looked at my uncle, and my uncle looked at the man. The man was really scared of my uncle, and my uncle was really scared of that man. But they kept on walking, and deep down into the woods they went. It was getting darker, and the man looked at my uncle, and my uncle looked at the man. The man was terrible scared of my uncle, and my uncle was terrible scared of That's the end of that story. Did I get you there that time? Hopefully. Okay, this one is called, What Do You Come For? And there's an illustration, somebody coming down the chimney, it looks like. Let's see what kind of jump scares are in this story. There was an old woman who lived all by herself, and she was very lonely. Sitting in the kitchen one night, she said, "Oh, I wish I had some company." No sooner had she spoken than down the chimney tumbled 2 feet from which the flesh had rotted. The old woman's eyes bulged with terror. Then 2 legs dropped to the hearth and attached themselves to the feet. Then a body tumbled down, then 2 arms and a man's head. As the old woman watched, the parts came together into a great gangling man. The man danced around and around the room. Faster and faster he went. Then he stopped and he looked into her eyes. "What do you come for?" she asked in a small voice that shivered and shook. "What do I come for?" he said. "I come for you." And that was the end of that one. And this one is called Tai Do Tai Walker. Tai Do Tai Walker. And there's how that's written. So I think I'm pronouncing that right. And there's an illustration of a little dog. There was a haunted house where every night a bloody head fell down the chimney. At least that's what people said. So nobody would stay there overnight. Then a rich man offered $200 to whoever would do it, and this boy said he would try if he could have his dog with him. So it was all settled. The very next night, the boy went to the house with his dog. To make it more cheerful, he started a fire in the fireplace. Then he sat in front of the fire and waited, and his dog waited with him. For a while, nothing happened. But a little after midnight, he heard someone singing softly and sadly off in the woods. The singing sounded something like this. Tai Do Tai Walker. It's just somebody singing, the boy told himself, but he was frightened. Then his dog answered the song. Softly and sadly it sang. Lynchy, kinchy, collie, molly, dingo, dingo. The boy could not believe his ears. His dog had never uttered a word before. Then a few minutes later, he heard the singing again. Now it was closer and louder, but the words were the same. Tai Do Tai Walker. This time the boy tried to stop his dog from answering. He was afraid that whoever was singing would hear it and come after him. But his dog paid no attention, and again it sang. Lynchy, kinchy, collie, molly, dingo, dingo. A half hour later, the boy heard the singing again. Now it was in the backyard, and the song was the same. Tai Do Tai Walker. Again, the boy tried to keep his dog quiet, but the dog sang out louder than ever. Lynchy, kinchy, collie, molly, dingo, dingo. Soon the boy heard the singing again. Now it was coming down the chimney. And the dog sang right back. Lynchy, kinchy, collie, molly, dingo, dingo. Suddenly a bloody head fell out of the chimney. It missed the fire and landed right next to the dog. The dog took one look and fell over, dead from fright. The head turned and stared at the boy. Slowly it opened its mouth and ah! Did I get you that time? That was a weird one. Okay, and this next one, and I think we're almost done. There's 2 more short stories left. And this one's called A Man Who Lived in Leeds. And there's a little illustration of some flowers, which look kind of scary, like they have faces. Some say this rhyme doesn't mean anything. Others are not so sure. There was a man who lived in Leeds. He filled his garden full of seeds. And when the seeds began to grow, it was like a garden filled with snow. But when the snow began to melt, it was like a ship without a belt. And when the ship began to sail, it was like a bird without a tail. And when the bird began to fly, it was like an eagle in the sky. And when the sky began to roar, it was like a lion at my door. And when the door began to crack, it was like a penknife in my back. And when my back began to bleed, I was dead, dead indeed. That one wasn't as scary. Didn't really have any jump scares, but it was creepy. And this one's called Old Woman All Skin and Bone. There's an old lady in a graveyard in the illustration. Old woman all skin and bone. There was an old woman all skin and bone who lived near the graveyard all alone. Ooh. She thought she'd go to church one day to hear the parson preach and pray. Ooh. And when she came to the church house stile, she thought she'd stop and rest a while. Ooh. When she came up to the door, she thought she'd stop and rest some more. Ooh. But when she turned and looked around, she saw a corpse upon the ground. Ooh. From its nose down to its chin, the worms crawled out and the worms crawled in. Ooh. The woman to the preacher said, "Shall I look like that when I am dead?" Ooh. The preacher to the woman said, "You'll look like that when you are dead." Rah! There was an old woman, all skin and bone, who lived near the graveyard all alone. Ooh. That was creepy. Okay, so next week we will read the next chapter, the next section of short stories, which is going to be called He Heard Footsteps Coming Up the Cellar Stairs. And it says that there are ghosts in this chapter. One comes back as a real person, another takes revenge on her murderer, and there are other strange happenings. So stay tuned next week for some more creepy stories. I hope you enjoyed these, and I hope jump scares got you at some points. I'm sorry if I scared you too bad. So next week we'll read some more scary stories to tell in the dark. Have a good week.